Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lead Pedal Radio and Canada Startup are here on this wonderful evening to talk about the financial markets with Bill Wilson. Hi, Bill. How are you today?
Doing well, thanks, Dave. How are you doing?
Fantastic. The markets have been very volatile until, in fact, today, the crypto market has just surpassed $2 trillion. It was just 3 months ago that the entire market became $1 trillion. And today it crossed over to $2 trillion. Lots going on in the crypto world, lots going on in the equity markets. And today we're going to talk about a small, medium-sized business owner's perspective on stock investing. And we're going to be handling any questions you might have, but also a step-by-step process to be able to pick 6 or 7 stocks that you could either buy at once or perhaps invest over the next 3, 6, 12 months. How does that sound?
Cool. I like that. Sounds very good.
The idea here is to go into financial literacy a little bit, personal financial literacy.
Okay.
When you hear the term financial literacy, what comes to mind?
I guess the first thing for me that comes to mind is just being able to understand if I was to join a conversation, say with you and well, let's say you and Ian, for example, that have been doing things for a long time. I'd like to be able to understand the jargon and what's going on. So I guess, sort of speak the language, so to speak, and then also being able to understand it, but able to act on it. So, I guess walk your talk, I guess.
Actually, it's a very good comment that in financial markets, there is a lot of jargon. In fact, in some ways, they make it more complicated than it is. Whenever I talk financial literacy, I try to really bring it back to math, meaning adding and subtracting, dividing and multiplying, because most of the financial records, whether it's a cash flow statement, the amount of money coming in or the amount of money going out, a balance sheet, the measures of your assets versus your liabilities, or even change of financial position. It's really looking at numbers in a very basic, simple way. And when people make it complicated, a dear friend of mine, Don Tolman, always likes to say, whenever they make it complicated, they're trying to lie to you. And so in financial literacy, I really love to bring it back to the simplicity of it, asking basic questions and allowing one to develop the words, the lingo, the jargon, the language of financial literacy so that one can become comfortable with it instead of feeling like an alien with it. And that's something that I believe every Canadian, perhaps every person who's looking after some financial assets really can either learn to make it their friend or probably give away all of the responsibility. And that thing about giving away all the responsibility to your financial advisor is, I've met so many people, they wake up one day and they're very surprised that they didn't know what they had given away. And often they're disappointed with what they result in. So today, I think what we want to do is to talk about stocks, but also put you in a position where you can ask anything. Anything is on the table. I want to bring up some stock names for you to bring it down into something you can look at, something you can do a little comparison on, and maybe something that you'll decide to be an owner of. And I think that's the fun part of our conversation on financial literacy, is that you can start owning some of the coolest companies in the world. Instead of just being a consumer, you can be an owner. I was looking at some of the pricing for Disney Plus, and I was thinking, wow, if you just get maybe a few shares, your Disney Plus will be free.
That's all right. I would so actually, that's a perfect one to go into. So what I think I'm missing a step. So I got my Wealth Simple. What do I have to do in there to enable I guess purchasing American stocks? Is there a special technique to that or step?
No, the big thing about starting with Wealth Simple is putting money in the account. And whether you put 500 or you put 1,000, you put 1,500 to start. And I'm saying this from experience today because you'll be happy to know my mother, Mary, at 81, started Wealthsimple a month ago.
Nice.
And so she put $750 in. And what we did is we went through the process that we're going to go through today. And she now has 6 or 7 stocks. And 2 days ago, she moved another 500 in and it takes 3 days to clear. So once it's cleared, then you'll have the money to buy the stock. So, and the beautiful thing is her portfolio, she has like 1 share of Bank of Montreal. Okay. She has 1 share of Bell Canada. She's got 10 shares, and it was her flyer. She chose Bombardier. And you know, Bombardier, since she bought it, it's gone from 60 cents to $1 today.
Wow.
But that's again her flyer. Yeah, but she has a very diversified portfolio. But the one that really excited her was FIE, which is a exchange traded fund, like a mutual fund, yet it pays a monthly dividend. So the amount that she has, she gets about $2.50 per month.
Nice.
So it's a coffee, yet what it is a savings for her. And of the new 500 that she's moved into the account, she probably wants to put 400 into FIE, so that instead of just getting $2, she wants to get $5 a month. And so she can see it grow. She is looking at it daily. And the other thing that's fascinating is that because of the phone that she's using, she's also just found the steps. And 3 days ago, she started walking and measuring her steps. And the first day it was 2,500. Yesterday, she did 7,000 steps. And today she's done 6,000 steps already.
Fantastic.
So I believe that some of this technology that we do have, perhaps our young ones know better than us, yet we're getting to know how to use it, yet even our elders can also learn to use it. So that's what with Wealthsimple, if you get the money in the account, and this is what's beautiful. You're gonna have to move a little bit because Disney's a pretty expensive share, yet you could buy one.
Yes.
You could buy 1 share, you could start the relationship. If you want to buy 1 a month for the next year, you'll then have a pretty nice position. And what's beautiful about the Wealthsimple is they don't charge you commissions to buy, yet they will charge you a exchange rate when you go from Canadian to US dollars.
Right.
So that's the little guidance is that have the money in there, go into Disney, hit the buy. It will ask you to make the exchange from Canadian to US, or it will do it by itself. It'll just ask you confirmation, and that's how you'll be able to do it.
So I guess, see, that's where I haven't even been able to, when I do the search, I search the DIS, just that's the ticker symbol for it, and it doesn't show up at all in the search.
Yeah, what you might have
I not enabled something in Wealthsimple?
No, it's Wealthsimple will have it there. I'm just doing it right now. You might want to type in the whole Disney, and it says, okay, and it says this security might not meet settlement requirements, is unavailable to trade at this time. Okay, so that's the latest advice I've got from Wealthsimple. Is it says this security may not meet our settlement requirements, is unavailable to trade. So that's one of the things that many of the US stocks aren't necessarily available to trade, yet you have to keep up to date because that does change also.
Oh, okay. So just keep updating the app and keep searching.
Yes, I would say that would be one of the ways. Or again, we can regularly ask it, and you can actually send a message to Wealthsimple and ask them what's the situation with Disney. And now that you've raised it, I'll also do a little follow-up and find out what is the situation with Disney for using Wealthsimple. So the first question was, what does diversified mean? Diversified tends to mean having different investments in different sectors. So the market is definitely going to go up and down and sometimes sideways. Yet if you have a diversified portfolio, if one of your positions goes down, quite often something else might offset it if it's well diversified. So today I wanted to take you through a little exercise of going through diversification and asking you, again, a little bit about the different types of stocks that you might be interested. So if we would be interested, if you're going to have a 6 or 7 stock portfolio, if you're to pick a financial that you were interested in, you might consider the bank you use, which is
TD.
okay. So you could have a share in TD. You could do a little analysis of TD, and what you'll find out is if you put TD in and you find out some of the financial details of TD, you will see that it has a nice dividend, meaning right now the dividend for TD is probably 3 point. Let's just see here. Oh, that's TD at BMO. Maybe you could check if you want there too, and we can do a little comparison. Line kicked me into Yahoo, into BMO. All right, let's see how this goes. Have you looked it up?
Is it TD.to?
Correct.
Okay.
And so, TD, yes.
When you go and when you're starting your search, and when you get to a point, it'll drop down a bunch of different options. What would happen if you went into, because I guess the last on the rightmost side, the exchange that it's listed on, correct?
I beg pardon?
What would you find if you went to, so on the right side, when you're doing the search and it drops down different options, what would happen if you went and looked at TD on the Vancouver exchange or the New York exchange?
What in this case, it will probably be TD.
What kind of information would
it would show you the cost of the shares. It would give you the information based on the New York Stock Exchange information. And the one that I've got here is TD.to, and this is the Toronto real-time price currency in Canadian dollars. So the difference will be whether it's in US currency or Canadian currency. And so TD, for instance, was at a 53 to 83 range this year. It's sitting at 83, and it has a 3.79% dividend.
And where do you find out when it pays, if it's paying yearly, quarterly, or monthly?
This says the ex-dividend date is April 8th, 2021. That's a good question. I know the answer to that is you'd probably have to do another search on when is it paid. And when I checked this is the thing, if you had an account with TD Ameritrade, in the information on the shares, it will tell you when it is paid and how often it is paid.
Gotcha.
I will just do a quick little search here. TD dividend frequency. Or dividend timing. Let's see what that comes up there. And it didn't come up like I thought it would. TD Bank dividend timing. There you go. TD pays an annual dividend of $3.16 per share with a dividend yield of 3.79. TD's next quarterly dividend payment will be paid to shareholders of record of April 30th. So if you buy a share or 2 or 5 before then, 2 days before for settlement, you will then be an owner of record, and then you will be receiving a dividend.
Awesome.
That sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one of the things that I'm going to invite you to do is in your, like, you could create a $750 or an $800 portfolio, and you can have just one or two of these shares to start off with, and that might be a way to get going. The one that I've spoken to you in the past is FIE.to, and what they do there is they own the banks and the mutual funds, but the owners of that fund, they also trade options and they use leverage to increase the return. And so instead of getting a 3.7% dividend, FIE delivers now, when we first started speaking, it was about 7.5. Now it's 6.7. The reason why is because people are looking for yield right now, and that's a pretty good yield. So it's not only been a good investment from appreciation, because it's gone from about 6.9 to 7.15, it's also the dividend is very good and it pays monthly. So that's something you can consider. It's also a fun way to have a little incoming coming in on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might be your choice, whether you pick a TD or you pick FIE, or if you want a little bit more weighting on the finance sector, you could pick both. So let's move to natural resources. When you think of natural resources, does anything come to mind?
To me, that would sort of talk like mining companies, minerals, stuff like that.
And
So, I mean, the first thing that sort of comes to my mind right now, it's been a lot of talk, has been lithium.
Absolutely. And so if you wanted to do some research into lithium mines, there are a number of Canadian lithium mines that tend to be what's called speculative. One of them is called Denison Mines, and it's considered a penny stock, yet it is quite in the news right now because of the lithium extravaganza going on right now. And so if I was to take a look at, it's DML.to, and they have had quite a volatile year, but their stock is traded from 38 cents to $2.29, and today it's sitting at $1.55. So that would be a good speculative stock if you wanted to play in the lithium mine. Natural resources could be oil. Oils are a fascinating sector right now because they've been so beaten up this past year. Yet in the last month, it's been the hottest sector in the market. It's been up almost over 20%. And so the names in the oil patch that you might remember or know would be Exxon or Chevron.
Chevron.
So those are the two big guys in the States that you might consider. You could also consider a Canadian oil play. The nice thing about an Exxon still is they've got a big, powerful dividend that they've agreed to not cut. And that's one of the reasons why Exxon has done quite well in the last 6 months. Its high and low for the year is $31 up to $62. It's sitting at 56.
Oh, wow.
And if I could see their dividend for you, their dividend is at 6.18%. So that's what's nice about a natural resource. You can consider something that is pretty powerful like oil, or something pretty speculative like lithium. Other ones that have really done well this past year is copper. But again, maybe pick something that you're curious about. That might be a good way to start in having a natural resource there.
Mm-hmm.
If we move to the sin stocks, the sin stocks are things like gambling, alcohol, and the latest is MJ. And MJ is just becoming legal now in many of the states. As you've seen, it's been illegal in Canada for the last couple of years. If you were to think of a sin stock in Vegas, a casino might be an example. And the one that I've been tracking a lot is Wynn Casino, WYNN. I think we've talked about you might consider getting a beer company.
Yes.
Which beer company were you most interested in? Molson's?
My first choice would be Molson. I'd like to look at what I want to research, and I haven't made the effort yet, is like the smaller craft ones. I guess you probably have to go like a mid-size brewery, like maybe like a Steam Whistle or somebody.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on whether they're publicly listed companies.
Right.
Yet your friend Molson Coors, its ticker is TAP, TAP. It's had a 32 to 56 range right this year, and it is sitting at $52 right now. It doesn't appear to pay a dividend. They may have suspended that last year. Yet that could be, again, what's nice is with Wealthsimple, if you were just to pick up one or two shares, you would just, again, benefit from the capital appreciation.
Right on.
I'm just seeing if they're available. Yes. So I just clicked that into Wealthsimple, and so they're trading at 52.41. Cool. And then what's nice about Wealthsimple, it tells you a little bit of their background and their holdings and where they're established. So that's one that you might look for your sin stock. I'd put your TAP against perhaps Win, or you could consider Afria, which is one of the MJ stocks, which is a Canadian stock. And it has, it looks like it might be the biggest one in North America. And its code is APHA.
Right on.
And it trades this week at $21.70.
That's all right.
And it is at a market of $3.90 last year, all the way to $40.
Wow.
And so it's sitting right in the middle right now. So that's one of the things that I could invite you to do is if you're going to pick a sin stock, maybe pick one of those three or something else that you might find. Yet that gives you a ballpark of what a sin stock is. It's sort of a casino or an alcohol company or a MJ business. So that's some examples, and there's quite a few in that sector now. The next one is travel and leisure. And if you were to think of travel and leisure, I think that was the one I was sort of putting your Disney into the bucket. Yet if there was something else that comes to mind, what might it be?
Gotcha. Just trying to think of something that would. What about airlines?
Absolutely a fascinating time to be looking at airlines right now. They've been beaten up pretty good. They have had a lot of volatility. So when we're talking about travel and leisure, it could be an airline, it could be a cruise line, it could be a resort, it could be what's a fascinating one that most people don't think of is Google, because Google received so much of their ad revenue from travel business. Last year, about 50% of their business was impacted.
Gotcha. That's interesting. I would never have thought of Google being in that category.
I don't think they're considered directly in the category, and that's why if you were to type them in, you might not. I just tried. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just tried Disney again. It's still not working. But yeah, American Airlines, Air Canada could be a possibility there. There's some people who say to stay away from airlines, yet if you were to look at Air Canada as one of your holdings, there's definitely some activity there. It's gone from $12.80 to $31 this past year, and it's sitting at $27 right now.
That's not bad.
So there's been some good volatility this year, and there's some people that definitely think Air Canada will continue to be successful.
It's an interesting industry. Like the amount of profits they make per seat is. I was surprised when I heard that information.
So if there was a travel and leisure company that you would be interested in, what might it be?
I would probably look at maybe Air Canada or WestJet.
Okay. Very good. Not sure what's happening with WestJet lately. I'm wondering whether they actually, I'm not sure whether they survived last year, but definitely something to look at. Yeah. And then we move into the power of the stock market, which has really been overweight for most funds, and also for the most of the profits coming out of the market in the last couple of years are the FAANG stocks. And that's when you look at Facebook or Apple or Amazon or Netflix or Google. And if I was to be inviting you to have a balanced portfolio, I would, depending on, again, if you're a big Apple fan, perhaps pick up a share or two of Apple. If you're using Amazon 5 times a day, maybe get a share of Amazon. If you see the benefits of Facebook and you see how much business is on Facebook, you might consider Facebook. And to be diversified, you might consider one or two of them. There are some people who would suggest you have all of them, yet again, this is for education purpose. We're not financial advisors and we're not giving advice. We're having a discussion and hopefully sharing some insights into the markets and some names that people can associate with, and therefore perhaps make their first investment or invest more rigorously or more vibrantly into the markets. So what would you like to ask or inquire about the FAANG stocks?
I think my biggest thing for them is I need to figure out which of these ones that we use the most, and then evaluate from there. Like I look at, I don't know if I have any questions about, but I just see right now, okay, for me, it would be between Apple, Amazon, and Google, and then do an evaluation on those three to see which of the two of the three of that I would choose.
Are you an Apple fan?
I'm an Android guy.
Okay. Yep.
So
that's where you might consider maybe pick an Amazon and a Google.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, because we're using more and more stuff through Amazon, so I'm thinking, okay, that sort of pushes me that way. And then Google, we're constantly using a lot of their products, so yeah, we're tending towards those two the most out of all of them.
Right now, the market's been quite fascinating for the FAANGs over the last 6 months because most of the top companies had a high in September, and it's been pretty flat for the last 3 to 6 months. And that's what's quite fascinating about most of the FAANGs, except for Google. Google caught up, but they've still been lagging. So the timing of actually picking up a little bit of Amazon or a little bit of Google would be an interesting investment. And for Americans, it's quite easy to do because while they have something called Robinhood there versus Wealthsimple here. And so they're able to purchase fractional shares of Amazon and Google, which in Canada, we don't have that yet. So it makes it a little more challenging to buy the FAANGs in Canada because the price of Google right now, for instance, is $2,000 US a share. The price of Amazon is $3,200 US a share. So both of those for Canadian investors tend to be a little bit more challenging. There are ETFs.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Yes, there are exchange traded funds that allow you to buy that. And that's what, again, this lovely investor, Kathy Wood, has been very famous for the last couple of years, because she's been really bullish on Tesla and allowing people to buy her fund, one of the ARK funds, ARK, which allows us to be a little bit more speculative in genomics, gene therapies, and different types of gene remedies. And then the other, she's just launched a space ARK space fund, and the other one is using it for investing in a broad spectrum of financials, or financial ARKs financial. And so these are ways that people can make investments in a sector, not own the specific stock, but take a position in a sector.
So she's got one for the FAANGs?
I'm not 100% sure on that. That's one of the things that we do a little research and come back and maybe add a comment to this. But one of the things I think what we could do is to do a search on which fund best represents the FAANGs. And there probably is an ETF that best does that. So what we'll do is we'll do a little research and add that as a comment in our comment section. And we also welcome anyone to add any questions or comments, or something they would like us to investigate or to do research on. That's something that we'll definitely be happy to do. Similarly, if there's any other questions that you have about the FAANGs, we can answer it now.
Yeah, no, that part you just explained about the portion, like buying fractional shares, I couldn't get my head wrapped around that when you were talking about it before. I didn't realize it was strictly an American thing, that we can't do it. So I guess what my question there is, what resources do we have? Like, are we able to join Robinhood, or do you have to be an American citizen for that?
Yeah, you have to have an American residence, I believe, and an address in the States to open up a Robinhood account. So, yeah, the two things right now for Canadian investors are a little tricky, and I actually welcome anyone who wants to give me some updates on this. Is there's two platforms in the States, Webull and Robinhood, that allow the Americans two nice advantages. One, they can have extended hours in trading. So they're trading 2 hours before the market opens and 2 hours after the market. So the after hours, Webull provides them a way to get access before the market opens, which when some of these stocks are moving, they're often moving in the extended hours. And so there could be an earnings report, and then they're immediately able to buy or sell, which is moving the market quite considerably. So that's one thing that's very attractive right now. If in two of the platforms in the States that I'm familiar with is Webull, and Robinhood does have fractional shares. And so those are things that are happening, and we're going to get access to it soon, because there are, like, Square and PayPal are moving into that space also. So it's quite a dynamic market, and whatever we say today, it's really for today, because things are moving in the financial field, and that's something that's quite exciting. Yet it's also something that allows us to be aware that it's a very competitive land space, and that we can take advantage of that if we're able to pivot and make some different investments too. Sound good?
Yeah.
What about any other products or services that you like? One of the comparisons that we could do is Amazon versus Walmart versus Costco. If you're looking for a retailer or someone who delivers a lot of products. In fact, all three of those are probably good investments right now. You might consider Walmart, since it might be a place that you visit. I believe their shares are a lot lower than Amazon. I'll just take a peek for you. And they've had very good results. So they're sitting at 140 US right now, and it's WMT. And yes,
What
that
about
one.
Loblaws?
Loblaws would be a solid Canadian company to check out, and they have had, I believe, a very good year also. Just checking it for you here. Okay. They're sitting at, they've had a range this year of 60 to 77, and they're sitting at 70. It has a yield of 1.84%. And so as a solid Canadian company where you do your shopping in that, that might be a good one to utilize if it's something that you're using and you find to be useful. But they're definitely engaged in a lot of different areas right now. They're expanding into pharmacies, into general merchandise, into financial services, insurance. So it's a pretty robust company. And when you get a chance to check it out, it's yeah. So Loblaw's company. This is on Wealth Simple. You could check it out, and at the bottom, it's got the explanation of the company. Or you can go and do a Loblaws at Yahoo Finance to check out some of the details there.
Cool.
A good, solid Canadian company. So that's one of the things that's nice right now is you can put together a good Canadian portfolio. I'll just run through a couple of the ones that I sort of directed my mom a little bit to. And we started out with her bank, and that's Bank of Montreal. So basically bought one of those. Bombardier, because frankly they're watching it quite often on I think on C24, and you get the ticker going by, so you can see that. And my dad was pointing that out when it got down to 40 cents, and then when my mom finally set up an account, it was at 60 cents. But that she didn't let that deter her. She said, okay, I'll buy a few Bombardier. And then in less than 3 months, it went from 40 cents to $1. And to be honest with you, it's still looking good. They've just sold a number of new planes. The private plane market is quite robust. And in fact, her buying it made me actually go and buy a few shares too, to be honest.
All right.
So Bombardier might be the little one that is information for anyone who's watching today to check out for yourself. FIE was the big one. And again, that's a ETF that gives a monthly dividend based on the banks and the mutual funds. What else did we get for her? Oh, Enbridge. ENB. You've checked it out before?
I got that one. I picked up that one.
Okay. Then let me give you a new one, because this might be the secret surprise for anybody today. What do you like to say about Enbridge?
Well, just from previous conversations we had, going around the house watching what we own or what we pay for services and stuff like that. Okay, Enbridge, we're using them all the time, and they had a decent dividend.
One of the best in Canada. So it's got over 7.2% dividend. Probably when you bought it, it was more like 7.5. And so I was going to get you to compare Canadian Utilities versus Enbridge. And so Canadian Utilities, I don't think is as popular in Ontario, yet it's got a 5.2% dividend. If somebody's looking for some added diversity, they might get Canadian Utilities and Enbridge. Yet there's one that I'll put on your radar today. It's just new on my radar, and it's called ENS.TO. And it's an E-split. And so the way that I've introduced FIE as an ETF that holds the banks, but then sells options, often covered calls and a little bit of leverage, to be able to give us the return that's quite a bit higher. In fact, almost 2 times higher than the bank's dividend, and it's paying us on a monthly basis. Well, this ENS.TO is based on Enbridge. So they hold a portfolio of Enbridge shares, and they create leverage, and they write covered calls. So they're giving, drum roll please, 12% dividend paid monthly. Yes. So
wow.
Now that's not 12% per month. That's 12% annually paid monthly. So it's still a
Paid
wow.
monthly. It's
so,
like 1% per month or something like that.
Correct. So it's pretty good from a perspective of a dividend share. It pays it out as a payable as opposed to a dividend. Technical word there, but it's something that I wanted to introduce you to today, given that dividends are a big part of our portfolios these days, given the age group we're in, and it's something to consider. So I wanted to introduce you to Canadian Utilities at 5.2. I'm glad you've got your Enbridge. That's a great start. My mom also got that one. And then this new one for us to look at, and whether you want to do a little bit more homework or ask or just pick up a few shares, because you'll be getting paid monthly, and it will be something that it's will allow it to grow for you in your account.
Yeah, no, that one, I'm definitely going to be looking that one up. I want to see the story on that.
Very good.
The ENS, that sounds interesting.
Well, that was this session today. Yes, go ahead.
When you're doing searches, like if you wanted to just when you do a search, what can you put in a query that looks strictly for dividends? Like what kind of can you put in, I guess, with respect to dividends?
So a Google search for that could be top Canadian dividend payers, or Canadian stock top dividends, or American stocks top dividends. And then you'll get a list of them. And there's quite a few lists in Google that will give you the list of Canadian companies with the highest dividends. Now, some of these ETFs like FIE or this E-split might not appear in that. Traditionally, that search will give you the top Canadian companies with the highest dividends if you ask for Canadian top dividends. You can, again, play around with it now that you know FIE. It's got one of the highest ones. You might say top exchange traded funds in Canada returns, and then you might get into some of the REITs, the real estate investment trusts that are available. And that's another sector that we could be looking at, is the green sector, the infrastructure sector, which the name seems to be doing really well right now, is Brookfield. And they've got quite a few different funds and different management companies that if you wanted a stalwart in, it seems, Canadian building projects, real estate, Brookfield seems to be a very, very powerful name. And the last one, I'm going to sort of bring it onto the table tonight, is POW. It's the Power Corp, and they're very influential in Montreal particularly, yet they've been also very influential in the financial sector. And last that I took a look at them, I believe they got about a 5% dividend.
Very cool. Yeah, I saw some articles in regards to that smart centers, all the little, because again, coming back to your things to look at, I never think of the whole strip mall. I think of the specific stores, but the people that actually build that whole thing, okay, that would be that's something I want to research as well.
That is a real estate investment trust, and it is one of the highest payers in Canada also, I believe. So let me just step back to Power Corp, POW.TO. It is a 5.4% dividend. And I think Smart, you can definitely, we can follow up on Smart Realty Trust, I believe, is similar, is close to the name. And it is one of the highest yielding real estate investment trusts in Canada. And so when you compare these, it's really nice to have some of these names. We've got today probably about 12 or 13 names. Quite honestly, you could probably put a little bit in 5 or 6 of them on your Wealthsimple as a starting point. And it might be a nice way for you to then occasionally, if you want, see what's nice about Wealthsimple is there's no commissions. So if you have, say, 3 or 5 of the shares and it goes up, you can sell 2 or 3 of them, make a little bit of money. And if it goes down, you can buy some back. And so it allows you to have a trading and an investing platform. And as a conservative portfolio, as one of your portfolios, you can have different portfolios for different things. And so this could be a dividend, a diversified portfolio. That was the theme today for all of our friends and family and potential partners, especially people who are business people who are looking to understand the markets a little bit more. This, again, hasn't necessarily been taught in schools. I wish it was. I'd love to be part of something that would bring financial literacy to the schools, because this is really information that is so important. And I think the young ones today are learning it on their own, yet you tend to learn by mistakes that way. And it would be nice to have some dialogue and conversation. And there's some really good content available, yet it really comes down to your curiosity and then the experiments that you're willing to do, feeling free to ask questions. And that's what we really wanted to do today. So is there any other questions that you might have on this idea of a diversified portfolio?
I think this will probably be a whole episode for us, but I wanted to understand more about doing everything that we've been talking about, but doing it within your TFSA. I think there's a lot of steps involved to that from what I'm gathering, but because I know in the long run, if I'm picking things to for dividends and stuff, like, there's tax benefits for that, right? So
your account with Wealthsimple can be a TFSA. And so for you and I think we have now the ability to have like $60,000 in a TFSA. And so the capital gains will appreciate there tax-free. The dividends will be received tax-free. So Canadians right now who don't take advantage of a TFSA are missing out if they're not aware of it. It's something that we want to increase their awareness that, yes, you can simply, and Wealthsimple setting up the TFSA is very simple. So it's clicking a button, it's there. Your first purchases, your first 5 purchases, all can be done in your TFSA. The money can be transferred from your BMO account into Wealthsimple. It will take 3 days probably to settle, and then you can start putting it into the market.
Cool. Yeah, I check that out.
And the nice thing is, I believe it's fun to have 5 or 6 or 7 stocks. And today, my mom and I talked about a couple of new ones that she might put in. She might put that E-split in there. I think it would be fun for her to have some dividends come in. And there might be people who are watching this and say, oh, no, that E-splits, it's no good. Well, again, I've done a little bit of research, and I don't want to put a whole lot of money into it. Yet a stock that I see that in the next 2 to 3 years, it should, and it has definitely the capacity to pay a steady dividend. And it's not right now, the pipelines are doing quite well. So I have a feeling Enbridge will continue to do well. So I was really looking at doing a comparison between Enbridge versus the E-split. What am I giving up for 7.5% dividend to a 12% dividend in the short run? Not very much. In the long run, you're talking about additional fees, yet that's what I'll be doing a little bit more research on myself.
Right on.
So that's one of the things when you're doing ETFs or mutual funds, you want to understand the fees. Most institutions won't tell you about the fees, yet they tend to dig in pretty significantly to your net returns.
Yes.
And with that, would you have any other questions on getting started or moving forward or enjoying the wonderful world of stock investing, diversification, ways to enjoy the financial markets and also accelerate the learning for yourself or for others?
Things I'm thinking about. I guess the next thing to understand is when a dividend comes in, I guess let's just focus on Wealthsimple because we've been talking about that. Does it just go into like if you have some cash still sitting in the account, do they just add it to that, or does it go into a separate itemized category? Where do I find that?
It'll go right into your balances.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what's really fun. That's where I really invite you, take a couple of $100, put it into FIE, and you'll see that experiment in the first month. That's what's really nice, is that you'll see it. It comes in as a couple dollars, yet that will be put right into your balances. And it's a
Right.
nice feeling, to be honest with you, when you start getting dividends.
Yeah.
And with Wealthsimple, it's going to be paying you cash dividends. They don't do the conversion for stock, and at that level, you're not necessarily going to buy a full share. Yet that's where you might consider setting up your TD Ameritrade, and then having the two accounts, and your bigger holdings could be in your TD Americ, and your TFSA can be managed in your Wealthsimple.
Right. Interesting.
Well, I look forward to the next steps forward for you, Bill. Feel free to let me know what actions you take, what questions you might have. Yet definitely stepping into some of those dividends will be a fun part of a diversified portfolio. And then it will also tap you into the global financial markets, because it will become hopefully a positive, healthy addiction, as you'll be tapping into best practices, strategies, global trends, and this will assist you in your entrepreneur journey.
No, it's been great. This is a lot of fun, and yeah, I learned a lot today, so that was great. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And again, this is our meetup, Canada startup. It's Continualshift on Instagram and on YouTube, and we're also very proud to be working with Lead Pedal Radio. And this is something that hopefully our trucker friends and our people who are enjoying Lead Pedal Radio also enjoy this discussion on financial literacy, financial fitness, and financial freedom. With that, thank you very much, Bill.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a great one.